Hello everyone, happy Easter and happy April Fool's Day. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about my bullet journal and my reflections on how it has gone, how the system has worked for me, how I have used and set up my bullet journal, and what I might plan to do going forward. If you do not know what a bullet journal is, I'm going to just link that below for you to figure that out. And for those of you who are subscribed to me because of my personality videos, stay tuned till the end if you want me to go into what I think how this relates to my personality type and how the system relates to other personality types. But I'm gonna just jump right into how this has worked for me and flip through a couple pages for you. The thing that I liked about the bullet journal system is how customizable it is, because I very much believe that everyone is different and everyone has their own system that works well for them. This bullet journal works for me, well, and I'm trying to refine it to make it work for me even more, but it might not work for everyone. And it's the same thing as, like, if you were to just go to a store and get a planner that had all of the dates just set out, it might not work well for your life. Maybe there's too much space, maybe there's not enough space. Maybe you like looking at it from a bird's eye view, maybe you want weekly spreads, maybe you want daily spreads. It all depends. Maybe you want like extra pages for notes, or maybe you don't like putting your notes there. And the thing about organization is that everyone needs to do it in a way that works for them and allows you to live your most flexible life. So I was drawn to like the creativity aspect of bullet journaling and also how customizable it is. And so essentially what I did here is I started by just making a list of spreads that I wanted to create that I thought looked cool. I watched a lot of bullet journal videos and looked up some photos, and honestly for me, I was not really drawn to the artistic aspect that a lot of people are drawn to with bullet journaling. A lot of people, they like the way that they can doodle or create art along with their journal, and a lot of times for people that motivates them to actually like get their ducks in a line and get their things together. If they really enjoy art, then it's just like another motivation for writing things down. For me, I was really drawn to not so much the actual spreads, more so lists. I needed a place to get lists because I just want to show you guys too. This is what I use for my day-to-day, which is Danielle Laporte's journal. Here's actually like the beginning of April. It gives me this page, and then it's like this, and then every day has like a soul prompt. So this is a lot for some people, but this is what I do for my days because I work at a job where I have a lot of flexibility in what I do during my day, and so I try and plan my specific tasks very outlined here. And so my bullet journal, I wasn't really looking for a journal that was going to be like daily tasks, but what I did start out with actually was, well, first I did this little Christmas list thing. This was me trying to be artsy, which, as you'll see, I don't really try and do anymore because I'm really not that artsy in that way. I'm an artsy sort of person, but not in that way. I started with this future log where I have December, January, like, and all of the months out here, just to sort of plan out future things. Like, for example, I knew I needed to maybe get new tires on my car around March, so I wrote that down. I put in like birthdays. I'm going on a trip to LA in June, and I wrote that down. This is yet to be determined, but I sort of have this just for things generally that I should remember, like going to the dentist, things like that, so that whenever that month comes up, I can see. And then this is something I did just in January, was a energy spread. Something I wanted to do was, so in my astrological chart, my main energies are Leo, Cancer, and Aries. And so whenever the moon is in Leo, Cancer, and Aries, I wrote that down to try and chart how I felt. As you can see, I did not write how I felt every single day, but whenever I remembered to, I would write how I felt. And I also put the moon cycles on there, and then I wrote little words that are reminders for the cycle. For example, in the full moon, I want to focus on being present, and for the new moon, I want to focus on setting an intention for the full cycle, because it's like sort of, the new moon is when the cycle starts of, like, the seed is planted, and then the full moon is like when it's blooming. And so I tried to see if I noticed anything, and I thought that was good for me to just sort of focus on the energy. I'm probably going to do that again for April, because I think what I tried to do is I tried to just use this for February with the moon cycles, but I didn't use it as much, so I might put it back in there. The thing with bullet journaling is that it's all trial and error, and it's also customizable. There's no right or wrong answer. And for me, that could be kind of hard to not have a right or wrong answer, or not, like, there not be like one way for it to work, because you know, I could be kind of a perfectionist. So this has been a journey in that way. So I did my January habits, which, as you can see, a lot of those are filled out, and I did pretty good in January. This was the main thing that I really wanted to track with the bullet journal, were habits. And these were the habits that I tracked. Meditate in the morning, meditate at night, stretch, be vegan the whole day, floss, do my morning pages, journaling exercise, which is just 3 pages of writing whatever comes to mind in the morning, make a smoothie, use my bullet journal, make a YouTube video, do yoga, post in my Facebook group, wake up on time, and take my vitamins. And then later on through the month, I decided to do this time to do nothing, because I don't really give myself time to do nothing. And then I also tracked my YouTube analytics. I wrote personal brand analytics because I also included Facebook group analytics. I like to see like my growth and stuff like that. So let's see. And I could see, you know, some sort of trends. And then I did try and do money stuff, but I haven't gotten there yet. Debt tracker. And so I tried to build a debt tracker, but honestly, that's so overwhelming how much debt I have, so. And then I have a savings tracker that I haven't really done either, but I think I might come back to this, especially since this part is at the very beginning of the whole journal. Maybe I will get back to it. So I wrote my 2018 priorities, and then I started my wish list here. So the reason why I like having a wish list is because it's a little different than like a to get list. It's not like a I need to get bread at the store because I'm running low on bread. This is like I would like to invest in a new bra. I would like I would like a lamp. I got this lamp. This was something on my wish list. I didn't have a lamp. So anyway, these are sort of things. I do this not only to sort of manifest goodness into my life and write down like the things I want so that I can get into that sort of abundant mindset where I can let things flow into me, and like, I don't know, it's a good mindset to be thinking about like what you want and what you wish. I like to try and stay hopeful and think about the future in a positive way. But also it helps whenever you're at the store and like if you see a candle and you've been wanting to get a candle, then it's not really an impulse purchase. You know that you've been wanting that because you remember wanting it. But then if you see something and it feels like kind of an impulse purchase, you could just write it down on your wish list, and then if you still want it later, then you could get it. And it's helped me. Weirdly, I feel more abundant because I've been checking things off a list that's like a wish list and buying things for myself about every other paycheck. But I've been spending less money because I know what I want. I'm not just seeing what I want or letting the advertisers make you think that they know what you want more than you do. And then for my priorities, I'm trying to stick to, number 1, I put personal brand. Number 2, career. Number 3, spirituality. Number 4, money, which I know you guys might be thinking, like, why is money such a big priority? Like I mentioned, I'm in a lot of debt, and I, you know, I'm not doing quite so well in that area. So you know, getting out of college, still transitioning into being an adult, that's like an area that I wanted to actually put some focus on. So then health, number 6, recreation, then friends, then dating, then building a professional network, then family, then reading and learning, and then spiritual community. And so this doesn't mean that spiritual community is at the very bottom, but these are all of the priorities that I want to focus on in this year. And if it's not on there, then it's probably not a priority at all. Like going to the club wasn't necessarily on there. I also made a to read and to watch, which honestly has been quite overwhelming, all the books that I want to read that I haven't gotten to. But it is really good to have at a good all in one place, all the books I want to read. That way, if I go to a store and I see a book and I'm not just like, oh, I totally want to read that. As I write it down, I'm like, oh wait, there's actually this other book that I've been wanting to read longer. I should get that. Yeah, and then shows to watch. And then this is something I tried to do to get now and eventually. I don't really know necessarily if this works for me. I tried to do things like, okay, eventually peanut butter. The reason why I put peanut butter on the eventually was because I wasn't planning on literally making a meal that needed peanut butter that week. But I was out of peanut butter, and so I wanted to get it at some point. But then like the now was like toilet paper. So there's that. And then there was like to remember, waiting on, and getting back to. This kind of worked, but I feel like I fly through these things so quick. Like for example, to get back to, I put like friends' text messages that I haven't responded to yet or something. Or like when I was waiting on a couple invoices, and waiting on a couple things that I bought online. And then here's my whole video ideas thing. And I also had video ideas from comments. I would go through my YouTube comments and see what people have said and try and gather and try and notice like if there are any trends. This is me. I tried to do a content calendar. This is not necessarily working for me, but I do think it's nice to have a spread in there generally of, okay, this week I want to do this video, this week I want to do this video. The thing for me is that I just work really well doing videos off the cuff whenever I feel like it, and so that's what has been the most motivating for me. I also have my to-do list, and then this is what started my brain dump page, where I just wrote about whatever came to mind, which some have been video ideas. This was like some notes from a meeting that I was doing with some friends. We were trying to create a young professional women networking event, like a 20-something women group, and I have my notes for that. And then here are some exercises that I did at the beginning of the year. I did a current me and a future me, where essentially you put you, and then you write words or qualities or traits around you, where you are and where you're trying to go. And I got this from a YouTube video by Lavendare. If you don't already follow her, you should. She has a lot of great life advice and tips, and it has a very calming presence. And this has just really helped jumpstart me into the year, thinking about what qualities I would like to reinvent in myself, and a lot of this lines up with my priorities. And then I also just did, and in 2018 I will let go of this, and in 2017 I'm grateful for this that was just started out the year, which by the way, just so you guys know, whenever I did do these spreads to create, which I'm going to give you some examples of more spreads too, I kind of decided which of these like exercises do I want to do monthly, which of these do I want to do quarterly, which of these do I want to do yearly. So yeah, so I did, here's something that I really enjoyed that I got from Tim Ferriss. It's called fear setting. So here's something I did. I wrote down every fear I could think of, and then over here I created SMART goals that troubleshoot against my fears. So SMART goals are, gosh, what does that freaking stand for? Measurable, actionable, something. Look it up. I forget. There's some sort of attainable, whatever. SMART goals. Look it up. There's an acronym and it's, you know, a thing. But anyway, I like came up with these goals. For example, I essentially came up with solutions of things that I could do to make sure that I am doing what is in my control for these fears to not happen. So, anyway. Then here's something I do. I'm not going to show you every single page, but something that I have done every single day is what I realized. So, let me think if I can find, okay, January 5th, I realized that aligning my body will actually help my mind and spirit be more aligned when it comes to having a good perspective and attracting the things into my life that I wanted, which I sort of realized at that day, as I wrote down, how important it was to make sure I stretch in the morning, because if I have tension in my back, then that is reflective of a tense mind, which means I'm not really thinking my best either, and I'm not really seeing the world clearly either. And I've noticed, for example, that for me, my body, mind, and spirit seem extremely connected, and that I need to start noticing whenever my body feels tense, because it might be indicative of a larger problem. So anyway, I've really enjoyed this exercise. Every single day I've wrote what I realized. So that's what I do for my bullet journal. I don't really write like what I need to remember for the day, because those, I use this. But this has been the best way of keeping me on track, of just writing what I realized. That way, you know, what I've started to realize in doing this is that I will realize something again and again. Things that I continually realize that I write down. I'm like, wait a minute, I already realized that. Like, for example, you need to sleep more. That's the reason why you are like stressed out, is because you don't sleep enough. So I did a couple more. Okay, I did my January gratitude page. That's something I'm making myself do once a month. I did my January fear setting, and then I started again on my habit tracker. I didn't do as well as you can see, but let's see. For February, I added, was I productive? Question mark. So I could at least check. I also added dance, and this is really weird, but it's like I realized I used to dance all the time as a kid. Like, I did ballet from when I was like 3 to 9, but even like before that, I mean, from when I first learned to walk, I would just dance around, and it was like something that I did for fun at home. I was not very graceful, but I did it anyway. And then I was sort of thinking about, like, you know, I just sit in a desk all day. I just sit in a chair, and I don't move around, but I think that my body, like, I'm naturally made to move around, and why don't I do it more? And I live in a studio by myself, so nobody has to fucking know if I'm dancing. So that's something that I've tried to do, because sometimes it helps me loosen up, because I can sort of get to controlling about how I want my life to go and how I want things to go and who I am and blah blah blah, and sometimes I need to loosen up. So that's what I do. I also did my personal brand analytics again. I redid my wish list and my to get list, which is a lot of times just a grocery list. I don't really know how successful having a to get list has been for me, because normally I'll do individual grocery lists, or just not have a grocery list and just remember based on what I need. I did some more video ideas here, which this month it seems like I did not use this page, which is fine. If you're doing a bullet journal and you're new to this, it's fine to not use a page. But a lot of these, it looks like I just came up with them off the cuff. Content calendar, I did these sad faces because I did not do that. To-do list, brain dump. What I realized. I did my what I realized page a lot. And you know, as you can see, I'm dropping off a little bit. I did my February gratitude. Guys, I really had a really rough March. The month of March was one of the worst months of my life. So I tried to do this fear thing for February and I never even ended up getting to it. But once I'm done with this video, I'm gonna get restarted for April. March was a little bit more dismal, but you know what? I realized as I was doing this that this habit tracking is really great because I don't feel like I'm setting, okay, this really works for me because I don't feel like I'm setting a goal of like, you have to meditate 3 times a week. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm just tracking how much I do it, and every time I do it, it's like I reward myself by checking it off. And I can start to see like, wait a minute, the days when I don't meditate are also the days that I don't wake up on time. Or the days that I don't meditate are also the days that I don't put a YouTube video or that I don't go to bed on time. And so I can start to see the patterns and start to realize how things influence each other and start to notice whenever I might be going through an issue or I might not be feeling the best. So I also did my personal brand there. So yeah, the tracking thing, to me, I've had to really learn to not be hard on myself if I'm not getting all of them done, because the goal isn't for this whole page to be completely checked off. These are just habits that I want to have in my life, and I'm on the path to getting there, and so I'm gonna track it so that I can stop. Whenever I stopped drinking Diet Coke, that's what helped me get off of Diet Coke, is that I made myself write it down every time I got one, and I started to realize it's like I couldn't ignore it. Once it was external, I couldn't ignore the fact that it was happening. So I also did my wish list and my to-do list. I did my video ideas and my brain dump, and tried to do a content calendar. That didn't work. I don't know if I'm gonna revive it. I did it. I realized there were some days that I forgot to do the I realized, and here we are now, where I'm gonna start for April. And so some things I've learned about this is that this, okay, for example, my bullet journal, it's pretty customizable to me. Because, at least for me, I haven't seen a bullet journal that was just a bunch of lists and that's it anywhere else out there. If you know of any that you've seen on YouTube or whatever, please let me know. Because for me, I didn't really see the point in just drawing up a calendar that looks like every other calendar that you might have seen. For me, I really wanted it to be about keeping me accountable. It's not just about... it's not just about, you know, making sure you show up on time. I wanted this to be a way for whenever if I had an idea for something that I didn't want to forget, I wanted to put it down there instantly and keep everything all in one place. So this has worked out for me. I feel like I'm a much more disciplined person now that I have this, because I'm not really naturally that disciplined when it comes to waking up on time, like having a bedtime, all these things. Like, this is like a goal that I've been trying to work on for 2018, because I normally let those things slide. And whenever I don't have much structure in my life, and so this is like the structure that I've built for myself. So I really like the idea of also forcing myself to check in every month. And so for April, I'm gonna do some of my quarterly things, like the current me and future me. I'm gonna revive that. I'm also gonna do some SMART goals to focus on. Really, I mean, this works for me. I hope it inspired you. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I like how customizable bullet journals are. And if you're watching this and you're not sure how to get started or how to create your bullet journal, don't worry about being artsy. Don't worry about if you mess up a page. Don't worry about if you don't know what you want to do, because you can always change your mind, and that's what's so great about it. So for those of you who have stuck around because you want to know how this relates to personality types, I just want to say that I think that what I'm doing, essentially, what I am doing is trying to compensate for my introverted sensing blind spot as an ENFJ. I do not think that NJs are very skilled at having a routine, or at having grocery lists, or at putting down everything in one place, I think that that is really hard for NJs. But I do think that whenever NJs put everything in one place, it's easier to know what to do. For example, it needs to be in the SE. It needs to be in the SE for our NI to be able to like look at it and then like touch it and feel it, and then now you know everything there is to know is on one page. It's easier to get insights about my analytics whenever I'm looking at it all in one place. Because with bad introverted sensing, I can't just like, I don't have these sort of like sensory information just in my brain. The way I think of it is like, in order to truly use introverted intuition, your brain has to be, or your mind has to be really expansive and open to other ideas. And you can't really, you have to let go of things that aren't as important in order to make room for the idea-focused part of introverted intuition. And so things like grocery lists just do not cross an NJ's mind. If you have strong introverted intuition, you might not remember if you have onions at home or not when you're at the store. You will forget, like, if you have peanut butter, or if you need some bread, like you might forget that. And so for me, I don't like just making a list. Like I would rather just have this be an extension of my brain. So that way I don't have to think about any of these things. This can just be the extension of my brain. And once I put it in here, I know that it's accounted for. But sometimes these sort of SI details, these little things of like, when's the last time I went to the dentist? Or when's the last time I did this? Like these little things like are not really things that NJs keep track of. And so this can cause a lot of unnecessary stress in an NJ's life whenever NJs are trying to control their vision or their career or their relationship or something else they find more important. All these little things are gonna not be really there. And so for me, this has really helped me have some sort of foundation. And I also think that people with introverted thinking are going to enjoy this, especially TPs, especially NTPs, honestly. I think that a lot of bullet journal experts are like NTPs, because there's like a lot of flexibility in the system and a lot of ways to customize it. I also think a lot of SFJs probably really like this system. If you are an NFP and you are wanting a way to be more organized, I think that this could really work for you. But if you're an NFP, I'm reminding you to not go on YouTube or on Pinterest and just repeat what somebody else has done, because it probably won't work for you. You are going to really need to think about, what do I actually want to track? Because I guarantee you NFPs are going to think this is a cool idea, do it, and then not keep track, and then like end up not doing it because life comes up. If you don't create a system that works for you, you aren't going to feel obligated to do it. And so that's what I would warn the NFPs watching this, is that if you really want to stick to it, you're going to have to make sure that the actual system and the actual things that you are tracking matter to you. Because if it doesn't matter to you, you're not going to do it. I've seen like some people track their mood every day, and I can see a lot of NFPs being like, oh, that sounds like a fun idea, I'm gonna do it, and then they won't keep up with it because they don't really care. You're gonna have to think about what actually works for you. And a lot of times NFPs, I've found that the doodling aspect and the creativity aspect of journaling, of bullet journaling, and even just including poetry or your notes or your own journal in with this, including the creativity with the boring stuff all in one place, I've found seems to have worked for NFPs that I know. So yeah, we all need something to keep us on track. Perhaps you don't even need this. Perhaps you just need a to-do list to carry around. That's fine. You could do that too. To me, I really, really like the fact that it tracks my habits. And now it's just like really fun and really happy. Or it's really like fun and makes me happy when I cross things off, especially when I'm having a bad day. and I feel super unproductive, and then I'll look through and be like, well, I guess I did do that one thing. I did take my vitamin. And then I'm like, yeah, you go, girl, you took your vitamin. So yeah, I think that this has been fun for me, and I've grown exponentially, especially those what did you realize today. If you want to do something like that, I would just suggest, like, what idea of mine do you think is coming to fruition that you would want to track the progress of? Think about that for you. For me, the what did you realize today has been helpful because I've started to have more theories about spirituality and about Myers-Briggs stuff because I've been able to watch them culminate. And a lot of times for me, this is another NJ thing, is that you'll have like this light bulb go off and then you're like, oh, I get it. I get exactly what that is now. But then if you don't write it down, that feeling of inspiration might lose you. It might go away, and then what? Like, you might not, you might think it's gone for good, but anyway, so that's why I try and write my inspiration down too, because even though it feels like it is so ingrained in me and that it'll never leave me, it probably will leave me at some point. And so, and if you write it down, then you know that it is there in your brain, in your second brain, for good. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the system and how I've grown a little bit and my little flip through. So thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.